The room smelled of antiseptic and something faintly metallic, like blood diluted in bleach. Amanda Cole blinked against the harsh fluorescent light above her, eyes adjusting slowly as her surroundings came into focus or pretended to. The beep of machines tracked her pulse, calm and steady despite the chaos her body had endured. Bandages pressed against her temples, and a dull ache pulsed through her skull. She didn't flinch. She needed to look broken. "Amanda," a voice said gently, clipped with practiced concern. A doctor leaned into view, white coat, stiff eyes, too sympathetic. "You've been in an accident. A car crash. There was head trauma. We ran the tests. I'm sorry, but you may never regain your vision." A sharp intake of breath. Not hers, his. Daniel. He stood near the foot of the bed, hands clenched at his sides. Amanda turned her head slowly, as if searching for him, though she knew exactly where he was. She had mapped the room already in her mind, counted his footsteps as he paced in earlier, felt the subtle pull of his cologne, even now sandalwood and money. His silence now said more than any desperate outburst would have. No hand reached for hers, no reassuring squeeze, just stillness. Then the buzz of his phone, the faint vibration, a nervous tick in the sterile quiet. He looked at the screen, hesitated, then he turned away. "I'll just step out for a minute," he muttered, voice already fading as the door clicked shut behind him. Amanda waited, motionless, letting the moment stretch long enough for anyone watching to believe she was crushed. Then, slowly, methodically, she sat up straighter. Her fingers found the foreline and traced it up to the bag overhead with unerring precision. Her head tilted toward the door, listening. No footsteps in the hallway. No whisper of breath beyond the glass. She smirked, her voice, low and razor-sharp, cut through the room. "Let's see what he does when he thinks I can't see." She lay back again, careful to resume the blank, lost expression they expected. But her mind was already racing. She didn't know for sure what Daniel was hiding yet, but there had been something in his voice, a shift, a gap where love used to live. This was her chance to find out, to watch without being watched, to disappear behind the veil of pity and emerge with the truth. Amanda Cole was no victim, and this game, it had only just begun. Amanda Cole had never been one to crumble. She'd been forged in fire from a cramped two-bedroom apartment in South Side Chicago to the helm of one of the country's most admired tech firms. Her mother, a soft-spoken Nigerian immigrant, had scrubbed hospital floors at night and battled chronic kidney disease by day, raising Amanda with quiet resilience and a fierce belief in her daughter's brilliance. Her father had left before. Amanda could form her first memory, and that absence taught her early how little people could be counted on. She grew up walking to the library after school, teaching herself code on outdated computers, ignoring the taunts from classmates who couldn't understand her hunger. It didn't matter. Amanda was already chasing something bigger, something no one could take from her. By the time she turned 35, Amanda Cole was on the cover of Forbes, her company a model of innovation and diversity in Silicon Valley. She smiled in every photo, every press release, every keynote address. But there was a distance in her eyes, a look that said, "I've survived too much to believe this is permanent." She was calm, strategic, generous with her team, but guarded, to the point of isolation. Success didn't soften her, it armored her. And then there was Daniel. He'd walked into her life on a rain-soaked afternoon during her sophomore year at Northwestern. Charismatic, funny, and devastatingly handsome, Daniel had a magnetism that pulled people in. Amanda, who rarely let anyone close, let him in because back then he believed in her more than anyone. They were broke, driven, and inseparable. He cheered her through pitch competitions, poured wine during her late-night code sprints, called her his genius. But ambition changes people and, over time, Amanda began to wonder if Daniel's love had quietly morphed into entitlement. Somewhere between her first $1 million deal and her first appearance on national television, he started showing up less. His compliments turned passive-aggressive. He spent with abandon, made big investments without her input, spoke of our empire in interviews as if he'd built it brick by brick. And when Amanda reached for him late at night, she found only empty space and the scent of unfamiliar perfume. They were still admired in public racing magazine covers and gala stages. Black excellence personified, but inside their glass-walled penthouse, the distance between them was colder than the marble floors. Amanda couldn't prove it, not yet, but she felt the truth pressing on her chest at night. Daniel was cheating. Not just with his body, he was emotionally gone, perhaps even scheming behind her back. And the worst part, he believed she'd never see it coming. Now, she had no intention of warning him. No one knew she wasn't blind. Not Tasha, her sharp and loyal assistant, who had started quietly alerting her to Daniel's late-night disappearances and odd financial behavior. Not Mrs. Cole, her mother, whose intuition remained sharp even as her body weakened with each dialysis session. Amanda had visited her in the hospital just before the accident, and her mother had taken her hand, eyes tired but unflinching. "Don't let love make you stupid," she'd whispered. "Men like that don't like being second to a powerful woman." And not Chris, her head of security. Chris, who barely spoke in meetings, but always noticed everything, who walked her to her car, even when she insisted she was fine, who once broke a man's wrist for grabbing her arm in a crowded club. Amanda had long suspected that Chris harbored feelings he would never voice, that suited her. She didn't need declarations. She needed loyalty, and Chris gave it, without question. Only two people knew the truth now: her private physician, Dr. Naledi Mbeki, and her lawyer, Eliza Franks. Naledi, who owed Amanda everything after the startup Amanda funded helped her open her own clinic. Eliza, who Amanda trusted with secrets that could sink a dozen companies. Both had sworn to confidentiality. Both knew exactly why Amanda had chosen to keep her eyesight a secret. Within a week of returning home from the hospital, Amanda had everything in motion. Cameras hidden in light fixtures, voice-activated, mics tucked into corners, security feeds routed to a private server only she and Chris could access. Daniel was none the wiser. He greeted her with carefully curated concern, helped guide her to the couch with performative patience, whispered to friends on the phone just outside her door. Amanda sat, eyes unseeing, listening to every lie. She moved through the house like a ghost, counting steps, memorizing sounds, keeping her head slightly tilted as if lost in darkness. But in her mind, she was building a case. She didn't want revenge, not yet. She wanted the truth. Every piece of it, because once Amanda Cole had the truth, she could destroy him quietly, surgically, without ever raising her voice. Let him believe she was helpless. That was her power. 2 days after Amanda returned home, the air in the penthouse had already shifted. Daniel's solicitous tone had started to thin, replaced by impatience masked as attentiveness. He kissed her on the forehead with the mechanical grace of a man checking a box, then vanished into long phone calls and business meetings that required closed doors and lowered voices. Amanda played her part perfectly, head tilted, hands fumbling slightly over objects she could easily navigate. She kept her expressions soft, docile, as if she were adjusting to life in the dark. That night, just past 11, Amanda sat curled on the living room couch, pretending to doze off as the television hummed in the background. She heard the faint chime of the elevator, then heels on marble light, careless footsteps that weren't hers. A woman's voice, bright with laughter, echoed from the hallway. Amanda didn't move. The sound of Daniel's voice followed, lower, intimate. They didn't speak Amanda's name. They didn't even bother to whisper. The giggling grew fainter as they moved into the guest room Amanda had insisted they keep. One, just in case her mother visited. The door clicked shut. Amanda sat frozen for a moment, then quietly reached for the tiny remote in the pocket of her robe. One press and the living room camera, positioned just behind a decorative sculpture, began recording the hallway in crisp night vision. She didn't need to see what was happening in that room. She only needed evidence that someone else had been brought into their home, that he was careless, confident. The next morning, Daniel whistled while making coffee. He asked if she needed help with her robe, if she wanted breakfast, if she'd slept well. Amanda smiled, murmured gratitude, and asked him to read her the news aloud, just like he used to when they were in college and broke. He chuckled, played along. She memorized the inflection in his voice, the forced nostalgia, the way he said babe like a man trying to remember the rules of a play he no longer wanted to act in. Later that afternoon, as Amanda sat in her home office listening to meditation music, the small earpiece hidden beneath her scarf buzzed softly. Chris had patched in the audio from Daniel's study. "I just need the transfer done by Friday," Daniel said, voice taut with urgency. "It's the Brightside Innovation account. No, it's under Amanda's name, but I have the access codes. We're good. Just move the funds into Gemini Holdings." Amanda's jaw clenched, but she didn't react. Brightside was one of her smallest side, ventures focused on funding early black and brown women entrepreneurs in tech. It wasn't a massive pool of capital, but the betrayal was razor sharp. Daniel had known how much that account meant to her, that it wasn't about money, it was about legacy. Then came the final blow. That evening, curled up on the same couch, Amanda heard him again. On the phone, this time his voice was low, oily, filled with self-satisfaction. "She's blind, now what's she gonna do?" he said, laughing softly. "I'm just playing the waiting game. Once she signs that new trust amendment, it's over. She won't know what hit her." Amanda didn't move. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She sat perfectly still, every muscle tight with control. Her mind had already moved beyond betrayal, beyond heartbreak. What she felt was clarity. Cold, precise, terrifying clarity. She'd suspected disloyalty. She had feared infidelity. But this was structural, calculated. Daniel wasn't just cheating on her. He was trying to erase her, quietly siphoning her life's work, her money, her trust. He was waiting for her to break, waiting for her to become small enough to ignore. Instead, Amanda straightened her spine, smoothed the fabric of her blouse, and allowed a slow breath to steady her pulse. She was no longer in mourning. She was planning, Daniel still thought. He was married to the woman he could manipulate, the one who would cry, forgive, try to fix him. But that Amanda was long gone. What sat in the shadows now was something else, entirely a CEO calculating risk, anticipating moves and assembling her proof piece by piece. The game had changed, And Amanda Cole had just taken control. Amanda's plan unfolded slowly, like the precise opening of a complicated lock. It began with what seemed like a careless mistake. One evening, as Daniel stormed out of the study in a rush, frustrated by a phone call, Amanda seized her chance. She moved quietly, her blindness allowing her to navigate unnoticed, and slid onto the edge of his leather chair. His laptop sat unlocked, the screen glowing with spreadsheets and emails. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating just a moment before she clicked open a hidden folder labeled Gemini Holdings. There, she found what she feared: documents detailing a shell company registered offshore, along with several account numbers she didn't recognize. But more importantly, another phone lay forgotten beneath the papers, sleek, black, and silent. A secret companion to the one Daniel used openly. That night, Amanda's apartment became a fortress of silence. Hidden microphones, planted days earlier by Tasha in Daniel's study, captured every whispered word, every hurried conversation. From the darkness of her room, Amanda listened as Daniel spoke to the other woman, Melissa, a former intern from her company whose bright eyes and eager smile Amanda had once trusted. Melissa's voice was nervous, yet complicit, and Daniel's was calm, calculating, dripping with entitlement. Once the divorce is final, Daniel said, "I'm selling. Off the shares. I've got a buyer lined up, some rich tech sharks overseas. They don't care about the story, just the bottom line. You and I both walk away with cash, no mess." Amanda's heart clenched, but she stayed still. The man she'd loved, the boy who once vowed to build a life with her on trust and laughter, was gone, replaced by someone she barely recognized. The years of struggle they'd shared flashed through her mind. The nights hunched over textbooks and coding programs in cramped apartments, Daniel's hand in hers when a deal came through. The way they'd dreamed aloud of changing the world together. But each memory cut like a shard now, a painful reminder of how far they had drifted. In the quiet moments, Amanda wrestled with her own pain. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the loneliness that had existed long before the accident. The silence that had stretched between them, filled with unspoken resentments and broken promises. She had closed her eyes to so much, hoping love alone could fill the void. Now, that blindness felt like a trap she had willingly walked into. Behind the scenes, her allies moved with precision. Chris, loyal and vigilant, slipped through financial records and shell company registrations, tracing the tangled web of Daniel's secret finances. His findings were methodical: offshore accounts, falsified documents, and transfers designed to evade Amanda's knowledge. Meanwhile, Tasha, always one step ahead, discreetly planted additional microphones and even small cameras in strategic locations around the penthouse. Amanda's lawyer, Eliza, worked tirelessly to draft legal documents, amendments, and trust clauses designed to block Daniel's maneuvers and give Amanda the upper hand. But everything hinged on secrecy. Daniel could not suspect her site had returned, or her entire plan would collapse. Despite her careful control, Daniel's behavior grew more brazen. Under the guise of tough love, he unleashed a barrage of emotional cruelty, mocking Amanda's blindness with cutting remarks and veiled threats. "You're a burden," he sneered one afternoon, voice low and venomous. "How am I supposed to run a business, a life, with a wife who can't even see the damage she's done?" Amanda's fists clenched beneath the blanket as he paced the room, arrogance swelling with each word. She recorded it all, every insult, every jab. Daniel's confidence was his undoing. In his need to dominate, he revealed his true self, unwittingly, providing Amanda with ammunition. One night, after Daniel had left the apartment for an extended business trip, Amanda finally let the weight of it all crash down. Alone in her room, the mask dropped. She sank to the floor, trembling, silent tears tracing down her cheeks. It wasn't just the betrayal that broke her, it was the painful recognition that she had been blind long before the accident. She whispered to the empty room, voice raw and fragile, "I just wanted to believe someone loved me without needing proof." The admission hung heavy in the air, a moment of vulnerability that contrasted sharply with the steel that had defined her in recent days. But even as the tears fell, a flicker of resolve sparked within her. This wasn't the end. It was a turning point. Amanda Cole might have lost faith in love, but she had never lost her will to fight. Rising slowly from the floor, she wiped her cheeks and squared her shoulders. The battle was far from over, and now, more than ever, she was ready to win. The grand chandelier above the living room cast a soft glow over the carefully arranged guests gathered for Amanda's vision loss fundraiser. Board members in tailored suits mingled with longtime friends, their polite smiles and sympathetic glances filling the space with an air of somber support. Daniel moved through the crowd with practiced charm, shaking hands, laughing quietly, the picture of devoted husband and benevolent CEO. Amanda sat near the center of the room, her eyes shaded behind dark glasses, hands folded calmly in her lap. The silence beneath her composed exterior hummed with the electricity of the secret she carried, an unseen power waiting to be unleashed. As the evening unfolded, speeches were made, donations pledged, and cameras discreetly recorded the event. Daniel circled back to Amanda several times, each time leaning close to whisper carefully measured reassurances, his breath tinged with faint traces of the perfume Amanda had heard before. She offered nothing but a faint smile, watching, waiting. The guests, unaware of the undercurrent pulsing beneath the surface, applauded her courage, admired her strength. No one knew she wasn't blind. Then, just as the fundraiser reached its crescendo, a toast to resilience and hope, Amanda tripped. It was dramatic, perfectly timed, a misstep that sent gasps through the crowd. Daniel lunged toward her instinctively, arms outstretched, but Amanda caught herself with ease, rising smoothly to her full height. The stunned silence rippled like a wave, eyes widened, whispers began, and in that charged moment, Amanda locked eyes with Daniel, her gaze sharp and unyielding. "Surprised," she said, voice cold and steady, slicing through the tension. With a subtle gesture, she signaled Tasha, who dimmed the lights and played the surveillance footage on the large screen in the corner of the room. Faces turned toward the glowing images first. The grainy clips of Daniel and Melissa laughing and whispering in the guest room. Then the snippets of his phone conversations arranging clandestine transfers of funds from Amanda's company to his shell corporations. The videos continued, revealing his emotional barbs, his mockery of Amanda's supposed blindness, his calculated manipulation and gaslighting. The room grew heavy with shock and disbelief as Daniel's carefully constructed facade crumbled before their eyes. Daniel's face flushed crimson, then paled. His mouth opened and closed, trying to form words that could spin the damage into something else, but no one believed him. Board members exchanged glances, friends stiffened, and even the media present began murmuring, sensing the unraveling scandal. Amanda remained unshaken, her posture regal, her voice low but filled with quiet authority. "You thought I was blind," she said, eyes piercing into Daniel's, "but I see you now clearer than ever." Melissa, sitting near the back with an uncomfortable flush, bolted from the room before anyone could confront her. Daniel's eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape that didn't exist. The guests closed ranks around Amanda, their loyalty shifting in real time. He was trapped, exposed, isolated, and defeated. In that moment, Amanda wasn't just a woman faking blindness. She was a force relentless, intelligent, and merciless. The room held its breath as Daniel's empire and the man himself began to crumble under the weight of her truth. In the weeks following the fundraiser confrontation, the fallout was swift and unrelenting. Daniel's carefully guarded world collapsed as the evidence Amanda had unveiled led to a full investigation. Fraud charges were filed, and soon after, he was arrested amid a storm of media scrutiny that turned his name from one of prestige to one of public disgrace. Amanda moved quickly, filing for divorce and cutting off every financial tie Daniel had to her life and her company. Legal protections ensured he lost all access to funds, shares, and decision-making power, leaving him isolated and exposed while Amanda regained control of the empire she had built from the ground up. Despite the chaos, she maintained a composed front, a testament to the steel forged during those dark months of betrayal and recovery. But Amanda's journey was no longer just about business or betrayal, it was about healing. She began therapy, confronting the emotional wounds she had long buried beneath ambition and resilience. Slowly, she reconnected with her mother, whose frail health seemed to improve as Amanda's presence filled their conversations with hope and warmth. Vulnerability, once seen as a dangerous weakness, became a new form of strength. Amanda embraced it not as a retreat, but as a powerful tool for growth and connection. With this renewed sense of purpose, she founded a foundation dedicated to women entrepreneurs who had survived emotional and financial abuse. Determined to provide them with the resources and support she once lacked, this work became her passion, a living testament to her belief that no one should have to face betrayal alone. Through it all, Chris remained a quiet constant. One afternoon, after a meeting about security upgrades, he finally voiced what had been unspoken for years. He told Amanda how he had always admired her, not just as a remarkable woman, but as a leader who never gave up, even when the world tried to break her. Amanda didn't respond with promises or romance. Instead, she reached out and pulled him into a heartfelt hug, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. It was a thank you for seeing her when she couldn't see herself, an acknowledgement of the loyalty and understanding that had helped her reclaim her life. In that moment, Amanda realized that true strength wasn't about hiding behind walls or pretending not to sit, was about embracing the full spectrum of human experience and moving forward with eyes wide open. Amanda stood alone in her bedroom, the soft glow of the evening filtering through the sheer curtains. Before her was the full-length mirror, its surface clear and unyielding. She faced it without makeup, without any carefully crafted mask to hide behind just raw, unvarnished truth. Her eyes, steady and bright, met her own reflection with a quiet intensity. For so long, she had hidden behind shadows, both literal and metaphorically frayed to confront what was real. But now, in this still moment, she felt the weight of that fear lift. With a breath that carried both relief and resolve, she whispered to herself, "I never needed sight to see the truth. I just needed the courage to open my eyes." The room held its breath as the screen slowly faded to black, leaving only those words lingering in the silence. Sometimes the biggest betrayals come when our eyes are wide open but our hearts are closed.